Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to just kind of do a quick sit down video to kind of start a new series that I'm going to be starting on my channel. I did one video like this before of finishing series that I'm in the middle of, but I kind of want to restructure it a little bit and just kind of wanted to start fresh now that it's 2025. I think I might try to do this every year and just make an opening video each year, update you guys on all of the different series I'm in the middle of, which is what I'm going to do today, and then throughout the year make other videos of finishing books in those series. And I just feel like it would be an easier way to kind of compile and figure out how many series I've completed each year. Without further ado, I just want to jump in. Like I said, today I'm just going to talk about all of the series that I'm in the middle of. I have them all over here, and yeah, there's some book series that I know I want to start. Some of these are interconnected series, but yeah, some of these I'll kind of talk about. I'm not sure if I'm even gonna finish the series, but I still just wanted to talk about them. So the first one is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. And while I know this is the first book in the series, I actually haven't read this one yet. I read Just for the Summer last year because I didn't know that they were interconnected standalones. So I want to go back and finish this series. So figured I should actually start with the first book. I already own Yours Truly as well. So these are ones that I've heard really good things about and I'm excited to read. And I just feel like in the spring I tend to get into a very romance mood, so I feel like this will be one that I'll pick up pretty soon. Alright, so the next book on my series that I'm in the middle of is, I don't know if that series has a name, but the next series that I'm in the middle of is the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. I somewhat started Powerless and then never finished it, so I think this is book 3, so I have 3 books left maybe. I have Powerless, Hopeless, and Reckless. I think those are all of them. But I have enjoyed the series so far. It's one that I don't necessarily gravitate towards because there is quite a bit of spice in her books, but I love her writing as a whole. So I feel like when I am in a romance mood, I do want to reach for her books, but I'm just kind of reaching towards other romance books before this one. But the Chestnut Spring series, I'm sure we've all heard about it. It's a small town. It starts as a cowboy romance. So the first book is about I think it's a bull rider, and then it's all of his brothers, except for this one is their kind of brother. He grew up with them. He's their best friend. I think he ended up being raised by the family for a while, but he's a hockey player. So this one I feel is a little bit tough for me because the rest of the series is such small town cowboy romance, and this one isn't that, but I still love the series. I know a lot of people love the book after this one, so I definitely want to continue the series at some point. I just don't usually gravitate towards romance series specifically. So the next one is one that I actually just finished the second book for, so I'm continuing the series kind of right now, and that is the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So I read The Naturals I think almost 2 years ago, and then I just reread The Naturals for my 24-hour reading challenge, and I just finished reading Killer Instinct, so I'm on book 3 of 4, so I'm definitely making some progress. I'm at the halfway point through the series, and I think it's just such a fun, lighthearted mystery book. I don't know, because it's a YA book, I feel like it's just a little bit easier to comprehend. And I think it's such an interesting concept of having kids who are working for the FBI in their behavioral analysis unit. So that is what this one's about. And I've heard a lot of people really like this book. I've heard this book is a lot of people's favorite in the series. So I am excited to continue this and just learn more about our characters. I feel like we're slowly getting more and more of each of the characters' backgrounds. And this one takes place in Las Vegas, and I feel like we're going to learn a lot about a specific character in here that I'm really excited to learn more about. The next one that I want to talk about isn't necessarily a series that I'm in the middle of, but it's like an interconnected group of series, and this is the last series of that, and that is King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. I've read Six of Crows and Shadow and Bone that are all in her like Grishaverse universe. So this is her last series that takes place in that world. So I kind of wanted to include it because while this can be read on its own, it's kind of building on some of the characters and storylines that I already know about. So I feel like it's kind of a new series, but it's kind of the same series. But there's 2 books in this series, and this, like I said, follows one of the characters from Shadow and Bone. So I think this is one that I'm going to want to get to fairly soon because I just recently read Shadow and Bone, so I feel like it's kind of continuing where I left off. The next one is kind of the same thing. It's a continuation of a series that I've read, and that is the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I meant to read this a while ago. I reread the Hunger Games trilogy last year, and I should have read this at the end of that, but I don't know, I just wasn't in the mood for more of the same. And this one is distanced enough from the original series that I didn't feel like I needed to read it back to back. But with her next book coming out, that like these are both like prequels to the Hunger Games. This one's like when the Hunger Games was created. The next one is Haymitch's story, who was the mentor from the Hunger Games. I feel like with that book coming out in March, I want to get to this one and kind of just wrap up the whole series, especially if they end up making a movie for the other one. It would be fun to be able to watch all of the movies kind of in a row. Flipping back to another romance interconnected standalone series that I have been working on is the When in Rome series by Sarah Adams. I've read When in Rome and I am about halfway through this book, and her third book came out in January, but this is a small town romance series. The first book was about the brother and a pop star. He runs a bakery. He's kind of a grumpy, sunshine, small town. And Sarah Adams writes closed-door romances. So I really appreciate that about her. I feel like it makes them just light, fluffy, easy romance books. This one follows one of the main characters from the first book, his sister, and the bodyguard of the pop star. And then the third one is about another one of his sisters who's a teacher and her like rival teacher. I'm not sure how they're making them rivals, but I think they might both be trying to be authors, but they're also neighbors, I think. But I just love her writing. I think all of her books have been so fast-paced and just fun. She writes kind of quirky characters. She writes a lot of like their inner monologue and what their thoughts are, rather than just narrating it. She's narrating it through their thoughts, which I think is just like a fun thing for a romance book. But yeah, I'm not sure if there's gonna be more than just the 3 books, but if there are, I will absolutely continue reading the entire series because I have just loved this little small town so far. Next one is one that I kind of debated whether or not I was going to put on this list, but I wanted to have it be a fully comprehensive list of all the series that I'm in the middle of, and that is the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy. I read this book back in, I think, 2021, so I don't really remember anything at all about this book, about the series. And yeah, I love V. Schwab's writing. I read Vicious by her and I absolutely loved it. I loved this book when I read it. I just got busy and never got back into the second book in the series and just wanted to read other books instead, if I continue this series, I'd have to reread the first one first and then go back into it. But the concept of this one is really interesting. So the main character is a magician who's able to travel between different universes, and in here there's 3 different Londons, and they're all like the same town, but like I said, in different universes that most people aren't able to interact with, but he's a messenger who can travel between the different realms to all the different Londons. It's one that I would love to get back into. I just, like I said, I feel like there's other book series that I usually gravitate towards before this one, but it is on my radar still. So in the same vein as that one, I have The Poppy War. I read this one not quite as long ago. I read this one in 2023 and I really liked it. It is a fantasy series, but it's a little bit on the darker side of fantasy. It's definitely more political, more action war based. There's not really a romance in here. There's, from what I remember, there wasn't a ton of strong character building, but I have heard so many good things about the series as a whole. But again, I think I would want to reread this one again before jumping into the other 2. But this one is definitely on my radar. I feel like this one's higher up than A Darker Shade of Magic just because I read this one more recently, and I feel like the war and the universe that this one was made in kind of reminds me in some ways of Fourth Wing, of she starts at school and then works her way through training and then kind of goes from there. Another one that is a similar idea to those is the Inheritance Game trilogy. Is it a trilogy? I think there's 3 main books, but I read the first one and then I bought the second one, but it was a while after I'd read the first one because this book wasn't available in paperback when I read the first one. And I was like, I liked the series. I didn't love it enough to not wait for this book to come out in paperback. And then by then I was in the middle of other books and never got around to it again. But I think once I'm done with the Naturals, this would be a good book to kind of take that one's place as kind of a palate cleanser. But this one is always reminded me of the movie Knives Out, where there's this guy, old man, who is leaving his inheritance and they all have to complete different things in order to get the inheritance. But there's just lots of puzzles and twists and there's a lot of drama within the family as well. So one book that I'm honestly not sure if I'm gonna finish this series is the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. I read the first 2 books and they were fine. I feel like compared to her other series, I don't really love them that much. And the more I think about it, the more there's so many other books that I would rather read before this one. And I don't know, it's such a long book that I feel like it's too much of a commitment to pass up other books for this one. Like I said, I really enjoyed the first 2, but I feel like there was too much detail in everything. The books could have been significantly shorter and still have gotten the same storyline across. And I don't know, I just was really struggling with it being an urban fantasy. But I don't know, if there's more to this series, I may continue it just to kind of see how it ends, but I'm just not really sure. I still have a bookmark in here. I made it only to page 35 before I stopped and was just not in the mood for it. And yeah, we'll kind of see how the year shapes up, but this is one that I'm gonna leave it on my series list, but I might take it off and just call it a DNF for the series but I'm just kind of giving it through the end of this year to kind of make that decision final. So then the last two are two that I am really excited to finish the series, and one is Onyx Storm. I am going to be reading this one very soon, but I am just about done with Iron Flame. I got this in the mail yesterday, so I'm going to be starting this one this weekend, but it's still technically a series I'm in the middle of. But I'm not going to be including this in any of my finishing series videos just because this is going to be kind of its own video. But even after this, there's still more books left in the series, so it'll still be a series that I need to complete, but this one will be one that will be checked off pretty quickly. But I started reading Iron Flame the first time and didn't necessarily like it that much, but now that I'm reading it again, I'm in the mood for it. I've been really enjoying it, and I'm really excited to get to Onyx Storm. So then the last one is one that I'm just waiting for the third and final book of the series to come out, and that is Reckless and the Powerless trilogy by Lauren Roberts. Fearless comes out in April. I will probably be reading that one as soon as it comes out. I loved Powerless. It was one of my top books of last year. I loved Powerful, the little novella. I didn't love Reckless, but I have really high hopes for Fearless. I feel like I could potentially really love the way the series wraps up. I just feel like this book was a little bit of like filler information mixed with pertinent information. Like I feel like some of it was important, some of it was just a lot of banter between the characters. But I still enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed it. I just didn't love it like I did the first one, and so I feel like my hopes are kind of middle of the road for the third book. I hope it's good, but I'm not holding my hopes too high just because I was really let down by this book. But that will be one that, like I said, I'm going to be reading it in April as soon as it comes out, so I'll probably have that in a video about finishing series because I feel like the timing will just make sense. The Dream Harbor series by Lori Gilmore, the one that the Pumpkin Spice Cafe is in, I have read through the Christmas Tree Farm, and I think the next book comes out this spring. So that's another one that I will probably finish up because those books are pretty fast-paced, that I feel like it'll be easier to just wrap those series up. But all in all, I am in the middle of 13 series, so I feel like it's not too bad. I feel like it definitely could be much worse. I feel like last year, because I read a few series and finished them, I think I was in the middle of like 16 series last year when I tried to start this. But I don't actually remember. I might have been counting books that like I wanted to read, or like I knew I was going to read the first book soon. But I still haven't started those. So I'm just hoping to try to finish up a few of these, or at least get like as caught up as I can before I start any new series. So if you guys are interested in following along as I read any of these series, definitely subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be posting, I think I'm going to try and like once every other month do a finishing series video, because I do know that there's a ton of books on my TBRs that I'm excited to get to as well. But I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I post every Wednesday, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.